Yo, what's up, world? This is another edition of the Trucker Diaries, starting a series of me just rambling about stuff that's in my head, that's on my mind. So I hope everyone's doing well. I just heard that my little brother Tim has just become a father. He's down in Tampa. So congratulations to him. I believe his daughter's name is Trinity, and so that's a beautiful, such a beautiful moment. You know, I remember when my son was born. You know, I was so nervous and so excited, and I remember those emotions. Man, to this day, I was, oh man, my son was such a small human being, just holding in my hands. It was a beautiful moment. So shout out to my brother Tim, TT, that's what we call him. He's a daddy now. I'm an uncle again, of course. Been an uncle for a while, but a family tree is getting more branches and more leaves, and more, you know, is branching out. So congratulations to him. I love him. To Tim and his wife too. His wife actually had the baby. Congratulations to Angela. She's the one who actually made the child. So she's the mother. It's a beautiful thing. So shout out to them. So life is precious, man. Life is precious. It's fragile. You know, this human experience. I remember talking to my brother Tim before he had the baby a couple of weeks ago. He's, you know, saying stuff about, like, you know, he's bringing another human being into this society, into this grid, into this matrix, and we're talking about, you know, some of the problems, you know, the child may face and things like that, being a black child, you know, and other stuff, and yes, it's a fragile time. It's you know, it's something else. Like, you can't really describe it. You just have to just love them, love your child the best you can. Show them that you love them, and just pour love on them, and you know, and just harness their curiosity. Just help their curiosity, help them understand the world around them, basically. And yeah, so my son is into video games, and not like current video games. You know, his mom, you know, is a Sonic fan, so he's still playing Sonic. Last time I, you know, talk with them, Facebook Messenger, video chat with them, you know, he's playing Sonic 2. Like, I used to play that when I was growing up. Sonic 2, that was my thing. So he's playing it now, you know, and it's a beautiful thing, you know. But yeah, hip hop, you know, hip hop is the central part of. It's kind of like this, the theme of what I'm talking about, I guess. Hip hop, life in hip hop, and hip hop that's in life itself. My name is Mr. Mike. Music Illumination Consciousness. That's what Mike stands for. And it's a wonderful time. It's a wonderful time to be alive, really. All the things that all the technology advances, all the ways we can connect with each other. It's a cool thing. It's a blessing and a curse, of course. There's a lot of information out there, a lot of good information, but there's a lot of bad information too, of course. You already know that. So I mean, it's you know, I guess being a child and growing up in this time, it's got to be interesting. So I don't know. I'm from the '80s. I was born in '83. I'm 36 years old. So But yeah, I have an album, Beautiful Garbage, and I'm gonna make more stuff, make more music. I can't wait to get back in town. I'm actually driving to. I'm in the truck right now. I'm driving to Tampa to pick up a load. I wish I could stop and see my brother and his newborn baby, but I don't think I have time to do that. But I will see him as family. So. But yeah, I just want to make more stuff, make more, I guess, content around who I am, and just share my thoughts, all of the interesting things that I follow. I have a thing about me that is a fan of underground stuff. I'm a fan of obscure artists, obscure music, obscure video games to a certain extent. I just like finding value in things that are not popular. I've been that way for a long time. I'm not totally that way. There's some things that are popular that I get into, but by and large, I love things that are unpopular. I really do. So I'm going to talk about some of those things, some of the artists that I've been following. I was raised in a church. And I lived that lifestyle majority for like 20-something years of my life. And I'm going to pause just a second. So sorry about that. Had a call from the company. So, but yeah, I'm a fan of underground, obscure things. So I'm going to get into that. Like I said, I was raised in a church, and it's part of my lifestyle for the first 20-something years of my life, and I drifted away slowly but surely in my 20s, and so during that time I was a big fan of hip hop from childhood, since I was like 8 or 9 years old. I remember Boogie Down Productions. I remember KRS-One. I remember just during that time where hip hop was kind of getting his legs under them, and we couldn't listen to a lot of it because it wasn't Christian, it wasn't gospel, and so but we did anyway. We kind of snuck around. I kind of snuck around, and I remember MC Hammer and all that, and I remember Camp Lo, of all artists. I remember Camp Lo having that album and listening. I thought that was the freaking dope album. The whole album was dope, and big Outkast fans. Me and my older brother were big Outkast fans. Fugees. I was a big Fugees fan. But since I was in the church and I couldn't listen to a lot of non-gospel music, I've listened to gospel hip hop, and I followed them for years. Like when I was in church, I followed Grits was my favorite for a while, and I had how people had those Case Logic full of CDs. I used to have those full of just gospel hip hop, or just underground hip hop. You know what I mean? And or artists that don't consider themselves gospel hip hop artists. They just consider hip hop artists, and they happen to be underground, and they happen to talk about God. But some of the artists talked about life, talked about philosophy, sometimes science to a degree, and they were very very smart, bright individuals that I was fans of, and I used to go see them when they came in and around Florida or in other states. I remember when I was in the Navy, I was stationed in Washington State. I got to see some of the artists over there, but I was just a big fan of just underground, obscure artists, and I followed them to the T. And I remember trying to, mention them to other people who didn't know about them, and trying to do that whole thing. We don't know what you're talking about, man, and try to get them to listen to obscure stuff. And it was difficult. Just a second here. They actually rerouted me back to Jacksonville, so I'm not going to Tampa anymore. So, But yeah, some of the artists I was into was Grits. I remember the first 3 albums were really dope. It just they sounded like hip hop. They sounded like, you know, that golden. They captured that golden era, and they had some of their own creativities with it. There was a track in particular on the Grammatical Revolution album. It's called "Time Is Passing." That beat is so dope. It was one of the dopest tracks I've heard in a while. I used to play that, you know, on repeat. The whole album is tight, but that one particular song was, you know, it's just great. The drums were perfect. The way they captured that song was dope. So Grits was one of them. Mars Ill, Manchild from Mars Ill was my favorite. He still is one of my favorite MCs of all time. A guy from Mars Ill is from out of Atlanta, and they were part of Deep Space 5, and they have a big conglomerate of people. And but yeah, Manchild was my favorite MC for a long time, because he didn't just talk about Jesus. He didn't talk about, you know, the whole Christianity living. He talked about life. He talked about hip hop. He was well versed, and he was a historian to a degree of hip hop. You know, he's older than I am, so he drew from a lot of references, and I love the way I love the way they titled their songs, titled their albums. They just had great ideas when it comes to presenting their songs, and Manchild's vocabulary was deep, and it was wide, and it was open, and it's just a breath of fresh air to hear him rhyme, to hear him talk about some of the things he does, and his cadences and his rhythm. And he can do several different styles. Love listening to him. I still listen to him to this day. His album Raw Material, one of my favorites of all time. If you go back, if you're interested, listen to these guys: Mars Ill, Grits, their earlier stuff, and then there's the Percussions. You know, I got to see them live. All the artists that I'm talking about, I got to see them live sometime or another in like the 2000s. Got to see. I got to see the Percussions when it was 3 members, when it was Mr. J, Medeiros, Stro Elliott, which back then it was Stro, the 89 key, and Resonant, who's now a photographer, a great dude. But I got to see them when they were all together. I think it's just 2 of them now. It's just Stro and Mr. J. And I think now Stro is working with The Roots and all that stuff, and he's doing a great job being a part of that, being part of the Jimmy Fallon show. So shout out to them. And Mr. J is still doing, I think he's got a thing with the Knives. He has a band called Knives, but I don't know too much about it. I don't want to say what I don't know or whatever. But Mr. J, yes. But yeah, the Percussions were great. They do a great show. If you ever see a Percussion show, yes, I highly recommend it. If they ever do any more shows, I don't know if they are, but if you ever get a chance to see the Percussions do a show, it's a great show, and you should go see them. So yeah, the Percussions, those are my dudes. And so I started following. There's a bunch of them that that I followed throughout the years, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. That's just scratching the surface of all the artists, underground, obscure artists that I was into, and so when I was listening to them, I started to follow them, follow their careers, and follow what they did and who they worked with. A lot of these gospel artists, they work. A lot of them work with artists that are not necessarily gospel, and that opened my eyes too, because my upbringing, gospel people only, gospel singers and musicians only work with other gospel musicians, but in hip hop it wasn't like that. Hip hop, you work with anybody, you work with everybody, because everybody inspires you. It doesn't matter the religion, what they believe in. And when I started to understand this, I was really starting to really question, what it is. What is this Christianity? This is all I knew since I was born. I didn't know anything outside of that. But I knew I loved to write poetry. I did it since I was a kid. I knew hip hop was going to be a part of my life. I remember, this going back, I know I'm all over the place, going back to Diggable Planets, when that Rebirth is Slick, not just the song, the video came out. When I watched that video, that really changed my life. That was the point where I told myself, I was like 8, maybe 9, I don't know, 7, 8 or 9. And I remember just watching that, and I was like, wow, that is so beautiful. It was black and white. It's black and white. If you haven't seen the video, go see it. And it was you had the artists on stage just being themselves. They didn't have the flashiest clothes. They were just up there just doing their thing, and it was just so cool. The beat was cool. And I told myself, watching the video, I was like, wow, hip hop is dope. It's not all violent. It's not all, what the media makes it out to be. Because I remember the news talking about, gangster rap and all that stuff, but it could really be a cool sounding thing. And when I saw that video, I told myself, I want to be a part of this. I don't know how I'm gonna do it, because I'm living in Lynn Haven, Florida, right outside of Panama City. I'm living there. A very small town in northwest Florida, and I told myself, yes, I don't know how, but I want to be a part of this thing called hip hop. I don't know if I would be a rapper, but I knew I wrote poetry, and just I told myself I just want to be a part of it, and so fast forward, I joined the Navy. The first time I performed hip hop, I made this song called Amazing Grace. Mr. Nancy, I'm over here talking. So I did this song called Amazing Grace, where the hook goes, Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound. There's nothing wrong with repping Christ in hip hop, so get down. He's the only reason that we're hanging around, so put a smile on your face and get rid of that frown. That was the hook. I can't remember the verse. It was 2 verses. And the ship that I was on, the USS John F. Kennedy, this aircraft carrier, they put together this talent show, and I was able to get on there. And no one knew that I was into hip hop because I was a quiet dude. I was pretty much an introvert, and so when this talent show came out, I was like, if I'm gonna do hip hop, if I'm gonna do this thing, I gotta not be on. I gotta not be scared to be on stage and doing what I love to do. And so I did it, and it was great. A lot of people looked up to it. It was dope. I wish I had footage of it, but I don't. But so you just have to take my word and believe me. So from then on, hip hop was, it's a part of my life. I became stationed. I'm still in the Navy. I'm stationed in Mayport, Florida, outside of Jacksonville. And Jacksonville became my new home once I got out. I started to just doing shows. What I would do, Listener. There's this artist, Listener, who was a part of Deep Space 5, along with Marzell and others that I mentioned before. Listener, he used to do this tour of homes, where he would go to people's houses and living rooms and bring, not a big amount of equipment, and go to people's living rooms and backyards and just areas around the home and perform. And when he came to Jacksonville, I used to open up for him. Astro Nautilus did it too, and that's how I met Listener. That's how I met Astro Nautilus. That's how I met DJ Dust. That's how I met Il Day, amongst others. But I used to go there and open up for them, and it was a small thing, but I was kind of getting my feet wet, and I didn't put anything together yet, and I didn't have a business plan or a record deal or anything. I just did it. I just started doing. And then I went to Art Institute of Jacksonville to study film. I'm not really a film fanatic, but it was something that I just stumbled onto. I was supposed to go with a friend of mine, but he ended up not going because he found out how expensive it was, and I didn't care because I was getting the GI Bill from the military, so that didn't concern me. But the thing is, now GI Bill didn't cover all of it, and so I'm still stuck with these student loans that I'm trying to pay off. So I went there, Art Institute, and I was doing shows there because they would do open mic nights and stuff like that, and I started putting together music, and I was developing Beautiful Garbage at the time. I shot a video for Put the Mic Down, which wasn't on the album, but I shot a video. But I think the hard drive that I had it on, crashed, and so I lost that video. I think somebody else has it, so if anybody out there listening, if you happen to have a copy, send it to me, but that's out there. So I started doing those things. And so hip hop was a big part of my life. This one time I did a show out in CD Connection. It was out on the beach, Jacksonville Beach, or Atlantic or Neptune Beach, one of those. Out on the beach. It's a place that sold vintage music, vinyl CDs. It's not there anymore, but I used to love going there and just collecting stuff. But I did a show there one time, opened up for the Nightlight. Shout out to Shay, shout out to I forgot the other guy's name, but he knows what. They know who I am. But I got to actually, they opened up for me because they had other stuff to do, so they actually had to go before me, and I was like, all right, whatever. My mother came to the show. Shout out to my mom, and my niece, Shanae, came down. Shout out to her. They came down. They saw me do it, and it was cool. And that's how I met Tough Junkie. That's how I met other people. And Tough Junkie saw what I can do, and I got involved with FFJB. He, linked up with him. He started making beats for me, and FFJB. We started, making music. I'm still shy. I'm still nervous because at that time I didn't know too much about local hip hop in Jacksonville. The only thing I knew Tough Junkie, and I met Mass Appeal before because I saw him at another show. Omega Watts came into town. That's another guy, another obscure guy. He was from a group called Lightheaded. He came into town to the Jackrabbits and did a show. It was dope. And I met Mass Appeal. I didn't know who he was at the time, and he sounded like a publicist or promoter. Like he had that thing about him. He can talk very well. He can sell. He can. He was very good, and he's a dope MC too. So I knew him, and I knew Tough Junkie, Simple Complexity. That's the only people I knew at the time. And then I found out about the ABs, Asimov, and I started getting plugged in. FFJB were doing these shows, and I started meeting people, and I started following them. If I'm not doing the show, I'm supporting some other people, but yeah, it was part of FFJB. I was like, oh, cool, dope, So I put together Beautiful Garbage, which is available now at Bandcamp, MrMike.bandcamp.com. It was released in 2013. I was on the Buzz magazine after it released, and so I got some buzz off of it. It's the Buzz magazine. So yeah, that was kind of the beginning, the genesis of my hip hop life, and all right, just gotta make sure I'm not hitting. You gotta make these tight turns when you're in this truck, and sometimes it gets difficult. So now I'm heading back to Jacksonville. Just driving this truck. I'm a truck driver. I'm still hip hop. You know what I mean? So I'm just giving something to you. So when I'm not, in the studio and recording vocals and things like that, I want to give something to you. Talk about hip hop life. And so thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. Talk more about other artists. These people that that I've supported, seen at one time or another. And shout out to, I just want to shout out to Nota Verbs. I remember a long time ago, he did a show in Jacksonville, and I got to actually meet him and talk with him. Cool guy, very down there. Did a show. It was dope. I think him and Grits performed. It was a long time ago. I forgot what the actual venue was called, but he came out and performed, and I talked to him, bought an album. I think I bought some merch, and I was just a fan of his, and he actually took time to pray for me, because I told him, I'm trying to do it. I've been writing things and putting songs together, and he actually talked with me and prayed with me. It was really dope. So shout out to him. And he signed the album that I have. I think he just changed from Nota Verbs to Verbs. It was just Verbs, and he released the album called Unlocked. It was a dope album. He signed that for me, and that was dope. I still have that somewhere. But shout out to him. So yeah, that's basically kind of like the genesis, the starting point of my hip hop lifestyle. Me just following underground hip hop artists, eventually opening it up for him. And me going off to college, going to the Art Institute, doing my film thing, making music videos, being connected with people, doing open mic nights, and just having a slew of shows with FFJB, opening up for various dope-ass artists. Like, I remember we opened up for Mobb Deep before Prodigy passed away, R.I.P. We opened up for Kool Keith, opened up for Wordsworth. Actually, he opened up for us because he went before us, and then he actually stayed after and saw us perform. He was like, "Yo, y'all, shout out to Wordsworth." Got a picture with him, and others, countless others I can't remember, but those were the ones I really remember. Those were dope. We just had fun times, man. And then life happens, and I'm out here driving a truck. Paying my bills, because I'm horrible at saving money. I'm still not saving money, and I'm going to change that. But life, hip hop is still essential part of my life. And so I just want to bring you. I just want to talk about the process. Talk about I'm still a student. I'm still a fan. I still follow people. I don't have it all. I don't have it all figured out. I don't have a business. I still don't have a business plan. So I guess people look at it as a hobby. I look at it as a lifestyle. I look at it as, I'm a performer. I perform hip hop. I am this thing, and I do it. And I haven't been doing it in a while, but I'm doing it now. So this is one of those diaries. I thank you guys for listening. There's going to be more. I want to talk about some other stuff. Probably some, I don't know, some current events, if you will. Maybe some current. Jesus, dude, you can't. This truck cutting me off here, real close. But yeah, I may talk about some current events. I don't know. I'm not a reporter. I'm not a journalist. I'm just a fan of hip hop, and I'll talk about video games and other things that interest to me. Maybe a few movies. I love kung fu movies, martial arts. I'm sorry, guys. I'm not a Game of Thrones. I'm not a Game of Thrones. Well, I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm not a fan. I just haven't watched it. I think if I actually watch it, I'd become a fan. I think I watched the very first episode in the first season when I was living in Panama City back in 2015. But I just didn't get into it. I should have watched more, but life. I was more focused on just trying to cultivate my art, and But I'll get into it in my own time. So I know it's the hype right now. It's the talk of the day, but I haven't been watching it. So I'm sorry. I know it's the last season, and I'm way behind on it. So I haven't watched stuff. I haven't watched it yet. So I'm sorry. But anyways, thank you for listening. This is one of many installments of the Trucker Diaries. So thank you for listening. This is Mr. Mike. I may have other people. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but this is just a starting point of what I'm trying to do. I love you. God bless, and hip hop. That's what it's about. All right, peace.